What is up, guys? Rick Cacus here with a new episode of Fan-Made Exotics. Now, this is the only series that lets you submit your exotic weapon, armor, ghost shell, artifact, or pretty much any Destiny exotic idea and have a realistic concept art made for it. Now, that's because I've partnered with the artist Benjamin Radiman, who makes these amazingly realistic exotic concepts. His DeviantArt will be linked in the description down below. Now, on the roster for today's video, we're going to showcase 5 featured exotics all created from the comment section of last week's video, and then we're going to discuss how exactly to submit your exotic idea and some tips for getting selected. I'd highly recommend you guys stay for that part of the video because a lot of you are submitting your ideas in the wrong place. Now, just before we begin here, there are a few things I want to mention. Firstly, if you enjoy this series and want to see more, please remember to support this video by rating and especially sharing it. Really helps myself and Benjamin out. And secondly, we only take these submissions from the newest Exotic Concepts video. So if there's a newer video than this one, an annotation will appear right now leading you to it. But with that all said and done, let's get started with this week's featured exotic concepts. Now, the first exotic concept we're going over today is the Cers Gambit exotic sniper rifle concept by Strider11. Now, this weapon has the exotic perk Be Brave. Getting multi-kills with this sniper rifle grants the Guardian a slight boost to recovery and agility. Stacks up to 5 times. Now, that is a relatively simplistic perk. I mean, you just get multi-kills, so if you get double kills, triple kills, whatever, you get a slight boost to recovery and agility, and then if you get another double kill, you get a little bit more because it stacks, again, up to 5 times. Again, very simplistic, but there's a lot going on in the background. And actually, the most interesting factor is if you think about the fact that it never says these stacks go away. It would be really cool if these were permanent stacks. So if you get a double kill with this weapon, you're going to get slightly faster agility and recovery. And if it does reach the 5 times stack, you will get a noticeable bonus. Perhaps it's something like the raid weapons that get reactive reload and then quick reaction wombo combos, and you can feel yourself, you get a boost to agility there, you can actually feel yourself being a little bit more mobile, moving a little faster. And this whole idea just has my brain going and thinking of all the possibilities. Like, how cool would it be to actually be able to whip out this sniper at the beginning of the Wrath of the Machine, for example, just get some quick multi-kills off the ads at the beginning of Vosic, and then constantly get a boost to agility and recovery for the rest of that encounter. Like, it would not go away until you died. Like, how useful would that be? That would be so awesome. I can just see people using this weapon like as a go-to raid strategic weapon, whipping it out, getting that bonus at the beginning of an encounter, and then having that useful bonus for the rest of the time until they die. Like, that would be like the ultimate PvE go-to weapon. Like, this would be competing with stuff like the Black Spindle, like other extremely useful exotic weapons for a slot, so people could get that constant bonus. So in PvE, I think this could really be a major player, and Destiny really doesn't have that concept in play right now. The concept of a constant bonus, that you can do something to get this bonus, but it doesn't go away after a period of time. It sticks with you. Now, of course, it would have to be somewhat of a minor bonus to make sure it's not overpowered, but that would be a really cool concept. Now, moving on, we have the Warlords Fall exotic hand cannon concept by Biggie DX. Now, this weapon firstly has Underdog as an intrinsic perk. Underdog boosts range and handling when your health is low. After that, it's got the exotic perk, the Uprising. Kills with this weapon while your health is low increase armor for 5 seconds, and kills made after an assist increase weapon stability and lowers recoil for 5 seconds. Now, the lower your health is, or the more assists you've gotten before getting that kill, the bigger the effect. So if you have 30% health remaining, you're going to get a slight boost to armor, but if you only have 10% of your health remaining, you're going to get a much bigger boost to armor for that 5 seconds. So, pretty cool ability, and Underdog as an intrinsic perk definitely works on that. This is a weapon that thrives when you get those encounters where you fight an opponent and then you nearly die. But unlike most primary weapons, where at that point, if you do win a gunfight and you have extremely low health, you'd usually run away and try to recover, this actually gives you a fighting chance if there's another enemy nearby. Gaining a decent boost to armor if your health is extremely low is really going to help you, again, fight off potentially a second threat, get those double kills more often, win those 1v2s more often. So this, if it has good other base stats, you know, good range, decent stability, all that stuff for a hand cannon, that is a very useful perk. That is like a no-joke perk, letting you really get a bonus when, quite frankly, you need a bonus most. Like you're just about to die, you get the biggest bonus from this gun. So, very useful ability. I see this definitely being more utilized in PvP. That's going to be where this stuff really matters. PvE, I mean, it's certainly useful as well. You nearly die, you get a kill, you get a chance to survive that encounter, but, you know, in PvE, it's not as essential. Next, we have the Ascending Flare, exotic sidearm concept by Dracorix MC. Clearly a Thorn-inspired design. I'd love to see more Thorn-style weapons in the game. Now, this weapon does have a few unique perks. Firstly, it has the intrinsic perk, Weapon of Sorrow. Deals bonus damage to hive enemies, boosted grenade and melee charge in the presence of hive ultras. Now, I'm just going to stop here for a second. That perk and the wording of that perk would be absolutely perfect on a raid weapon in Destiny. I know, you know, the Wrath of the Machine is going to be the last raid until Destiny 2, but again, that wording of boosted grenade and melee charge in the presence of Hive or any other enemy faction ultras, that is extremely useful for a PvE-minded weapon. So I'd love to see that style of perk come up more often, perhaps on other guns, perhaps in Destiny 2, but it's a really good way of giving you a good PvE bonus, especially, again, for like a raid weapon against the faction where the raid is placed. Now moving on, we have quite the exotic perk. It's Fuel the Fire. At the cost of a grenade or melee charge, fires a super bullet, dealing twice the normal damage. Now, that's a very interesting perk, but the first thing you gotta ask is, how do you activate that? You know, I would think you would just be holding down the trigger. Like, you hold down the trigger, of course it's gonna fire a shot automatically, but then it's gonna start to charge or whatever, and then when you encounter an enemy, you release that trigger, it's gonna do your 2 times dealing bullet. Now, firing a bullet that deals twice the normal damage is, of course, you know, fantastic for DPS. Even just getting that one bullet dealing double damage on a sidearm, that's going to obviously extremely improve your time to kill, especially if you can get a headshot. I think you'd only need like one other bullet to kill an enemy at that point, so that is no joke at all. That is really going to up your DPS, could be very useful for someone who already maybe uses sidearms in PvP especially. Using up a grenade or melee charge, like, that is definitely a downside. Again, it's gonna really, you know, matter in where your preferences are. Do you want to kill an enemy extremely fast with this sidearm? Like, this would melt stuff. A double damage dealing bullet, say that 5 times in a row, but that on a sidearm, again, fantastic for DPS. Are you willing to give up a grenade or melee charge to do that? Well, if you're doing something like Trials of Osiris, I mean, you don't really care that much, you just want to kill the enemy. You know, you're more than willing to throw a grenade or use your melee charge to kill the enemy in front of you, but transferring that to your sidearm, to which you could probably get a little bit better range than your melee, that's no joke. So, very interesting ability. The problem here is how you're going to activate that, but if that's, you know, ever considered and ever figured out, it definitely could be a usable perk. Moving on here, we have the Cer Shell, exotic Ghost Shell concept by Peyton Barrett. Now, this Ghost Shell has a couple of unique things about it. Firstly, it has the passive perk, the Life Exotic. That's the same perk that's on the exotic class armor currently in the game, which lets you use another exotic kind of for free. Like, the exotic class armor in the game doesn't take up an exotic slot, and this would be the same. Now its exotic perk is enhanced and replicated. Upon dying, a SIVA energy ball is sent out, tracking enemies and dealing minor damage. Yes, please, we have all experienced the, frankly, bullshittery of that stupid SIVA swarm. You kill an enemy with a headshot, and then the ball of SIVA flows out of his head and at you and deals damage. Why not give us that ability? Yes, it would be kind of annoying, not gonna lie, but it actually would be such a sweet thing to have. If you're killed by those bastard vandals or whatever, you have a chance to take some out with you, I suppose. It's not gonna be that big in PvE, but where it is gonna be definitely utilized is PvP. Getting that ability in PvP would be, I mean, if it dealt minor damage, if it only did, 15-ish damage, it wouldn't be anything, I don't think, overpowered. But it'd be kind of a cool ability to have. If you get killed, you kind of have this last-ditch attempt at vengeance with this SIVA swarm. So I think it'd be kind of a cool idea and useful enough that this would be, pretty sought after in PvP. I mean, again, it's going to depend on whether or not it's a little bit too much and too overbearing, and could definitely be too annoying in PvP, so you may just have to dial back the damage to something very reasonable, even, as low as 5-7 damage. But even something like that is giving you a benefit, whereas if you didn't have it, it wouldn't be giving you that benefit. So even then, I think it would be utilized, it just wouldn't be as annoying. But very interesting idea, and again, it brings up the concept of, should we experiment with exotic ghost shells within Destiny, giving you these minor abilities that are, somewhat useful, not overbearing, something that people are going to want to go for, but something that you don't feel, completely overwhelmed against if you're playing against someone who has it and you don't. So, very interesting concept, to say the least. Now moving on, the last exotic concept we're going over today is the Peroxium exotic auto rifle concept by Kill and Joke. Now this exotic, apart from looking actually pretty damn cool, has a few unique things about it. Firstly, it's got explosive rounds as an intrinsic perk, so it's just automatically going to have explosive rounds. Then that's going to couple with its exotic perk, high explosive rounds. A kill with this weapon increases the damage of its explosive rounds by 7% for 5 seconds, stacks up to 3 times, and it gives you a slight increase to blast radius. Now, of course, when you have any sort of increase to damage, you always have to worry about balance. But there's a couple of reasons why I think this gun would actually be pretty perfectly balanced. Firstly, the increase is only for 5 seconds, and a damage increase of 7% for 5 seconds stacks up to 3 times. Is that anything more insane than the hand cannons that are currently in the game that with reactive reload go from a 3-shot headshot to a 2-shot headshot? Those are currently in the game, and those are, maybe considered by some, but they are balanced within Destiny right now. You don't see a bunch of people really upset about those taking over the Crucible. And this is kind of a similar effect. So, that and reactive reload, is there really that much of a difference? Not necessarily in terms of the damage bonus. Also, it's really just increasing the explosive rounds. So the most useful this gun would be, actually, I think, is in PvE, because that's where you're going to get the most effect out of explosive rounds. That's where you're going to have enemies lining up beside each other, a bunch of thralls, a bunch of acolytes, close proximity to each other. That's when you want your mega explosive round damage bonus. Not necessarily PvP, although for sure it could be useful in PvP as well. I'm not saying it has to be one or the other. But heck, maybe we need a really good auto rifle in the Crucible right now. Auto rifles are pretty underrepresented. How about we get one that, you get a kill, then it becomes really good, and then you get another kill, then it becomes really good. Like, why not have a really competitive, almost overpowered auto rifle in the Crucible? I'd love to see more people repping competitive auto rifles in the Crucible right now. Come on. And that's going to wrap up the 5 featured exotics for this week. Now let's talk about how to properly submit your idea. Now, as I said at the beginning of the video, a lot of people aren't getting counted, and here's why. To submit your exotic idea, all you need to do is reply to the official comment thread in the comment section of this video. So I am going to leave a comment saying, reply with your exotic idea here. That comment is the only place where we look for ideas. If you comment in the normal comment section, if you send me an email, if you post it on Twitter, none of those are counted. So make sure you're putting them in the right place. We can't take ideas from everywhere. It's just like a little bit too much. So we have to limit our selection to those official threads. Now, some tips for getting selected. Firstly, try to self-regulate your idea, make sure it's not overpowered. Getting a kill and instantly getting an overshield is probably a little bit much. That's kind of the basis on which we judge what's overpowered, what's not. Also, try to make your idea realistic for Destiny. Getting a kill and turning into a dragon or a bear or something is not going to be implemented anytime soon. Thirdly, try to make your idea not overly complicated. You can definitely have unique ideas, but if you're typing paragraphs and paragraphs trying to explain what your perks do, that's probably too much. But lastly, don't be afraid to break the traditional gun categories that are in Destiny. Don't be afraid to make SMGs, laser rifles, heavy sniper rifles. All of that stuff is wide open and we accept all those ideas. And moving on, the last thing we're going to do in today's video is shout out all of the different concepts created from last week's ideas. Firstly, we have the Death in Triplicate, Exotic Pulse Rifle by Toa Dracua. Next, we have the Lone Wolf, Exotic Warlock Helmet by Jack Forte. Moving on, we have the Under Orange Skies, Exotic Warlock Boots concept by Randall the Splicer Vandal. And last up, we have the Space Unicorn, Exotic Fusion Rifle concept by the XD Fun. Now, that's going to wrap up today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny content and don't want to miss out on next week's episode of Fan-Made Exotics, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. Now, if you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.